You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1 Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenoscope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 395. I'm, of course, TFG and Mike. We are 5 episodes away from 400, and I think I actually have a plan for what the hell we're doing for the 400th episode. More details on that later. Also, joining me this time, as they have been throughout what I'm essentially deeming Jimmy January at this point, because it's been all Palmiotti all month so far anyway, is Edward and Kendra Hale. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. And as I said in Batwing Volumes 4 and 5, that was going to always be the very first Jimmy Palmiotti coverage I ever did in the pull bag. However, those were not the first things I read from him. What we're covering today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this, is the actual first thing I read from Jimmy Palmiotti. It's his original idea along with Dave Johnson. They did it on Kickstarter. It is called Pop Kill. They had already done the first issue by the time I had found out about it, and then I had seen that the second issue was on Kickstarter. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And they had a $10 level where you could get both the first issue and second issue. So I'm like, $10 for digital editions, fine, great. I think they raised a ton of money for all of these. And then one morning actually, I wake up to an immediate email. Oh, this is Kickstarter. Just to let you know, Palmiotti and Johnson have started Pop Kill issues 3 and 4, and I'm like, yeah, it was like a month after the second issue's campaign ended. I'm like, cool, I can't wait to see how this story ends.
You know when it's right. Now, I can't tell you who's going to win today's game, but listen close, because 3 of you folks are going to be big winners. You got the right one, baby. Uncontestably tasteable and intimately wonderful. You got the right one, baby. You got the right one, baby. You got the right one. If it's irrepressibly lovable, unsurpassably quotable, and intimately soulful, you got the right one, baby.
So that's how I came to this. Now, I know I introduced you guys to this, and apparently this wasn't for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, like, bad-mouthing Jimmy or nothing like that, but...
Right.
It wasn't my cup of tea, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I crushed it, all 4 issues, actually just read all of it, over again last night, and I'm just like, meh.
Really? Huh.
That's all I mean, it was, I don't mind the action and all this other this, that, and the third, but I don't know, there was a lot of stuff that just kind of left both of us sour, I guess you can say.
Oh, okay. All right, well, okay, before we get too far into that, again, creative on this, Jimmy Palmiotti and Dave Johnson, creative story writers, all that. Juan Santa Cruz is on art. Brian Reber is on colors. Sean Conant, I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name, was on lettering. John J. Hill is on design. Dave Johnson did the covers. Amanda Connor and Dave Johnson did the variant covers for this. So so the basic story, so people understand it, is it's basically two cola companies are owned by former conjoined twins, and they hate each other and they want to destroy each other, essentially. Hey, I was a fan of the 90s Cola Wars.
Hello. Gotham Corner Store? Yes, we seem to be down to our last Diet Coke. A gentleman is on his way to pick some up. Just look for a black car. No, this black car will be rather difficult to miss. And by the way, the gentleman is usually in quite a rush. Just for the taste of it, Diet Coke.
I don't know.
And too. So that makes it even better.
Yeah, like right across each other in Japan.
Yeah. That's the thing. I do love the art, though. The art style, I think that is really cool. And the colors in this are so bright in every panel, in all 4 issues.
I think I like the outer lying story is the best way that I'm going to put it. I love the throwback to, like, not only like we were talking about earlier, the Coke and Pepsi wars, but also the left versus right tricks. Mm-hmm. Get with them being across from each other. So I like not only the art, but I like the outer lying story for this one as well.
Mm. I've read these now because, again, when I got this on Kickstarter, I read the first 2 issues, and then when I got the 3rd and 4th one, I read it, and I just read all of it just now, just before we started. And I think it ends a little too fast in the 4th issue, but overall, I mean, and we're trying our best not to spoil this, folks, because if you were a Kickstarter member like me, you want to be able to read this on your own. I'm curious to know if they're going to put this anywhere else after the Kickstarter stuff, after all the physical rewards from Kickstarter are out there, because I think everybody needs to at least check it out. Even if it isn't their cup of soda kind of thing. I don't know.
I'll be nice enough to say that. I will be nice enough to say that with Popkill, it is something that you should at least give a read to see if it is your cup of soda. But that's about as far as I'm going to go.
Okay. What was it about the story that you didn't like, Kendra?
With this one, I'm personally not a fan of the James Bond movies.
Okay.
There's a big feel of that in this comic. So if you're a huge fan of the Bond, then you're going to be great. This is for you. This is all Rock'em Sock'em Robots for you. Mm-hmm. But for me, the one thing that's always struck me with the Bond films is how they treat their female, like their protagonists, their leads, anything in that spectrum. Mm. And that was something that absolutely got picked up in the book as well. So I don't know if it's more the time period feeling that's coming out that I just am like, no, this definitely isn't my cup of tea. Or if it's just, all of the cheesecake that's really not necessary for me as a female reader. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I don't like cheesecake. I do appreciate it when it has a purpose, when there's a story when it goes with the story, but I don't like it just for, here you go, fanboys, here's some cheesecake for cheesecake's sake. So I think those are my main issues with Popkill. When I said to you that I'm not the target market for it, it's because I can't vibe with James Bond flicks. I absolutely refuse to even watch them because I know how the females are treated. And that follows along with the book as well. So for me, this was a miss.
Yeah, and I understand that. I completely do. And that's, the way I looked at it, and since I've read it, obviously I've read all 4 issues twice now. I do see more of the Bond influence on it. I didn't at first, but I do now after the second reading through here. And I like it, but for me, it's more so about the cola companies. It's more so about the cola war. It's more so about the fact that John Pyle, the main character, who is the main hitman assassin person that is actually working for one of the cola companies. You know, the whole twist with him and everything else, just, you know, shining a light on the fact that most of the cola companies in general in the real world, they're all, you know, you have polar bears, you have Ray Charles on the advertisements, but deep down they're probably pretty sinister. And this kind of takes it to a whole other extreme with, you know, oh, I want you to kill this girl if she can't give you the formula kind of thing.
Very Bond-esque.
Yes. I see it now. And
and don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. And Jimmy, if you listen to this is my apology ahead of time, sort of. But the main story, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was creative. I thought that it was really cool. It was a great concept. I personally loved the fact of the two competing companies with, you know, other ones in the background. I loved that. That was very it was a unique, and I liked it. It was just all the other stuff that I was just like, okay. Like if it wasn't there, I think I would have enjoyed this more, because I would have gotten a feeling of like Mark Russell's Billionaire Island is what this one reminds me of, with them taking from the real world and the advertisements that you see everywhere, which are absolutely hilarious. So, I mean, I do find things that are enjoyable. It's just that really, like Edward said it earlier, it soured it for me. Yeah. Because by the time we got to issue 2, I no longer cared. Like, I wanted to know the main story, but I didn't care about John Pyle or what's her name? Dina Deluxe? Yeah,
Dina Deluxe.
Like, she was a completely flat character. I feel so bad. I don't normally, like, hate comics. I love them, and I wanted to enjoy this. But it was so flat. Like, I get that. That maybe that was the intention, was that these guys were just supposed to be flashes in the pan, and you weren't supposed to feel anything towards them. But that's not normally why I get into reading a comic book.
Sure. What about you, Ed? I mean, I know that she has said her piece and whatever else. Were you feeling the exact same way as Kendra, or did you have any other things to add before I try to convince you guys that they're not so flat?
Well, I mean, you know, I grew up on steady diet of the James Bond flicks and, you know, your espionage films and Mission Impossible and this and that and the third. And so I had a respect for that. But, I mean, if I was a 16-year-old boy, this would have been, like, right up my alley. I mean, you got your gratuitous violence for no particular reason other than it calls for somebody to get shot in the face. And then you got your TNA all over the place. Yeah. But as a 44-year-old man, I don't need TNA in my comics in order for them to be cool. Actually, let me rephrase that. The way that the TNA in here was used was no substance whatsoever. It was literally just to get a kick out of the fanboys. I mean, even in the back of the first issue, the artist was drawing sketches of other characters or NPCs, I guess you can call them in the book, and 90% of them are chicks with their boobs hanging out. And I'm just, you know, I'm turning my man card or whatever you want to say about it, but it doesn't do anything for me, and it actually detracts from the story because of that. I mean, the artwork was hit or miss for me. Okay. Some spots it looked really good. You know, you have a good panel or, you know, a creative layout or something like that that looked really good. But then in other spots, and I'm going to single out John Pyle on this because he looked like a Ken doll with no expression on his face through half the book. Yeah. And that just bugged me. I mean, if you're getting cut, you're at least going to be like, oh shit, you know, I just got cut. But, or at least have a reaction on your face. But he was just like, you know, Ben Stein, you know, sitting in there looking for some clear eyes. I mean, just no emotion at all. And I
now I have the Visine ad in my head.
Well, there you go. You're welcome. But I mean, I don't know. It just a lot of that detracted from the story for me, and it felt like they were trying to pull out the vibes from like Wanted or Kick-Ass or something like that to appeal to the older audience. But at the same time, it turned me off.
I guess I should have
my
said...
problem was I compared it to...
Yeah, well, you can't compare anything to Sin City.
Yeah, I know.
Sin City is its own beast.
Yeah. I think I probably should have said at the beginning of this podcast, and maybe I'll go back and edit something in for this. This is an adult comic. This is not for kids at all. And
user discretion advised.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But it's one of those things where the main crux of the idea grabbed me when I first heard about it. I think I saw Jimmy tweet about it, or I don't know, maybe I was on Kickstarter doing something else. I don't know how I first found out about this. I know it was through something on social media or online where I was like, oh, what's this? I think it was a tweet from Jimmy or something that I had seen him talk about. Oh, by the way, our second campaign is up for the second issue. I'm like, what's this? And I go to it and I look and I'm like, okay, yes, it has female gratuity and all of that and everything else. And I was like, okay, but it's a spy thing. I kind of get it. And I think the first two issues play heavily. The whole thing plays heavily on the spy thing. But once you get into issue 3 and 4, like I said earlier, I think it wraps up a little too quickly. However, issue 3 with the backstory that it gives for the characters, for the brothers, so we see how their characters basically grew to hate each other, kind of thing. I liked that part of the story. I thought that was good.
Me too.
And I wouldn't necessarily say John and Dina or Dinah, whatever you want to say. Whatever. I don't necessarily think they are flat characters. They don't have a lot of fizz either, but it's one of those things where they are she's supposed to be the quote unquote damsel. Again, they're playing off of stereotypical things, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it because I know I kind of can see where it was going to go. And I think by the time we get to the 3rd and 4th issue, we see John care more about her and vice versa. Like, we see something happening with them, even though, not a lot of substance happens with them because he's basically having to save her. And I should say that the character of Ms. Deluxe, she has created this formula where, soda has extra fizz longer. The carbonation lasts longer. Hence why the soda companies are fighting over her. Kind of thing. And it just made me think so much of all of those old Pepsi and Coke ads. And I meant to tweet Jimmy, and I'll probably do this afterwards. And I'm like, okay, so if Popso is Pepsi and Fizz 1 is Coke or vice versa, whatever, who the hell's Prime Pop? RC Cola?
That's
logic.
That's funny as hell if it was.
Yeah, I don't know. And I do like that they give you the the little interview things, and they ask questions and they answer them in the back of the books. And I gotta say, for what I end up, basically for $20 for 4 issues. I mean, because it was a Kickstarter kind of thing. I'm pretty happy with this because not only did $20 get you almost, I would say 40 or 43 pages of story. Usually you don't get usually in single issues you get 20 pages, 22 pages of story and then ads. I mean, I'm not counting the back pages where it's the Q&A section and that the biographies and the advertisements at the back, but we have a good number of pages here with story. And I think they hit the mark on getting the story done. And I think it's cool to have a comic that's, set. I'm sure there are plenty of others that I have not read, but for me, outside of Turtles, this is the first one that I've actually seen set in Japan. Like, the one that I've actually read. I mean, outside of Turtles, outside of Batman, that kind of like... Batman's always going to Japan, I'm sure, because he's got to train with somebody.
He's a very traveling hero.
Yes. I mean, issue 3 does have a couple of gratuitous sex scenes in it. We get the setup of the rivals between John and the other bad guy. He's basically the Jaws or the Odd Job character. I like how they set up the history between him and John. I thought that was really good. What are you laughing at?
Because I feel bad, because everything that you're bringing up as a positive is written down as a negative for me. Like, I'm just like, okay, yeah, the setup was great if it didn't have to do with, John sleeping with his wife and,
Hold on, let's be John sleeping with everybody's wife.
I mean, my gosh, the mistresses, everybody's wife, the board of directors' wives, in a cuddle puddle. I mean...
Yeah, that's not exactly good, but hey, those old guys are paying him to do that.
Right, at least there's benefits.
Yeah, along with the other benefits.
Women on his bed with him?
Yeah, that was the whole thing, was like, I'm assuming, because it doesn't actually spell it out, but one of the wives comes over to him before they leave, and she's like, oh, well, here's one more year of lease, so I'm assuming that the benefits to him sleeping with the board of directors wives and keeping them satisfied is that he doesn't pay rent on his apartment.
Well, that, and...
whatever works.
I mean, if the board of directors... Like, it's not like the board doesn't know about it. I mean, right. It is, I could see your point and agree with it if it was like... if one of the brothers paid him to sleep with the brother's mistress kind of thing, but the board is paying him to pay attention to their wives so they don't have to because they're all old men and feeble at this point, right? Apparently. Right. So I kind of get it.
If that were the only thing, or even, if that and the scene that we get with, which brother was it? Goro.
Mm-hmm.
If that and the scene with Goro where you find out that John slept with his mistress, one of his mistresses, that apparently was pretty important to him. If that had been the only, couple of key figures to show us as readers that he was a dog, I'd have been great. But we had several other indicators, like a closet full of female clothing left behind by his quotation friends.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was every single issue. It was, how can we make John a bigger dog than the last issue? And they succeeded in doing that in every single issue, because every issue afterwards, I hated him worse. Just like, God, he's a chauvinist piece of shit. Jesus. Okay, man.
But rather than killing him, they give him,
stuff.
I mean, that's enough negative. Like I said, I really didn't. I would even say as much as 75% of this book series, I actually did like. Yeah. I did.
Yeah, I mean, I see your points, and I agree with them. Yes, John is a chauvinist pig. Yes, John is an oversexed. But again, that's
most
his.
Males are.
Yeah, most of us are.
No. I don't mean that like as in. How does Jeremy put it? REAL life. I don't mean that in real life. I mean,
yeah, most comic versions. Yeah.
For Pop Kill specifically, most of them are. I mean, Kaido and Goro, they definitely are.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember the other assassin's name.
Baram.
Haram. It sounds.
Is it Haram?
Sounds close. We're gonna call
him something like that.
We're gonna call him Haram for right now.
That's fine. But that him. I mean, I was not okay with Neapolitan, no matter how creative that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not okay with the scene with Dina at all. That is one thing I will agree with. The scene where she's captured.
Yeah.
And the dude's trying to get in her pants. I was not okay with that at all. Absolutely not. I I understand
But
why
that
it was.
didn't bother me as much. So I guess I'm a flip-flop. That part actually felt genuine because here she is in captivity with this guy who's obviously been made to be a bad guy. And yeah, that logic follows. Okay, well, I'm supposed to be watching you, but they never said that I couldn't, do this. They just said I couldn't hurt you. So that part actually, I guess, made more sense to me than all of the rest of it. Because that makes sense in a captive situation. That's one of the first tactics they're going to use.
Especially on a female like that. Yeah.
Especially on a female. It's like prisoner of war. So that made sense to me. Doesn't make it right, but it made sense.
But it just, that was like, I don't know. I guess I see the character of John for what he is. Like, I know he is the way he is, and right. I would like to think by the end, and, again, trying our best not to spoil this so people can actually read it themselves.
Right.
I think, but, trying. Slight spoilers. But like, we're not going to sit here and tell you that, John ends up with a bullet in his head out the window at the end. That's not what happens at all, folks. But I think John plays a good hero type, and I think by the end of it, where it ends up, he's not really the chauvinist anymore by the end of it.
I wouldn't call him charming either, though.
No, I never said that. I'm just saying he's not. He's the lesser of two evils when it comes to horrible people.
Yes, I will give him that. But I think that was my problem. Like, I don't want to say two-dimensional because I don't think that he is truly a flat character. Mm-hmm. But he's not charming. Like, when I think of the Bond villain, or when I think of what avenues these guys might have been pulling from, hell, Archer, the TV series, where it is in that secret agent man style, at least there's some charm.
Hold on, but at least they have humor to make it funny.
Yeah, there's humor too.
There was humor in this, but it came from none of the main characters at all. I mean, it literally came from all your side people, like the chick that Haram met when he got over to the strip club or whatever, the whorehouse or whatever you want to call it.
I don't even remember the name of A1. I think it was supposed to be a steak sauce reference.
Probably.
Of course.
But, I mean, she had some jokes. And the big bad guy that was, like, trying to get it in Dinah Deluxe's pants, I mean, he had some jokes. And a lot of other people did. But anytime that John or one of the brothers tried to crack a joke, it literally fell on its face. And I was just like...
That's not true. There was one joke that had us giggling. And it was the Post-it note joke.
That's my favorite thing in the whole book, honestly, and that's sad.
I really liked that joke. I think that if you have a squabble between brothers, this actually, Pop Kill is a way to showcase that beautifully. I really do think that they did that justice.
Yeah, I will give them that.
Because you felt it. It was palpable. These guys were doing any and everything to just literally make each other's lives hell.
Yeah, and it was some serious Yakuza vibes up in there too, when everything starts going down. I'm just like, God damn, so this pop company, he's got a freaking army underneath of it, fucking assassins over here, and you got your big giant bald bad guy over here that weighs like 1,200 pounds but is built like a brick shit house. I'm like, all right, so apparently I'm just in the wrong line of work. We got a Coke plant down the street. I want to go see if I can get a job there and, be a part of the Yakuza.
I don't think that's how it works, but sure.
One can hope. Don't cash my dreams.
I just love the juxtaposition of everything. I love that basically I mean, if you think about it, though, the brothers, Kato and Goro, they're just ruthless, and it, bridges from their upbringing, it bridges from the resentment from each other. And the beginning part, when I reread it, right before we started recording this, I'm like, oh, that's right. He was about to have his head of security kill himself until the head of security turn around and kill all the guys that failed him. I'm like, oh, that's genius. Okay. That works.
Right?
Why would I kill myself when I can just kill everybody else and we can get new lackeys to do our dirty work for us?
I found that slightly amusing, but at the same time, I'm also like, wow. So everybody in this company is just a horrid piece of shit. Because the guy that was about to kill himself and killed the other guys was the one that fucked up. So,
yep. True.
The boss should have been like, I'm not going to just put the gun in your mouth and make you pull the trigger. I'd have pulled the trigger myself, since that's the one that primarily fucked up.
Yeah.
So
it was a learning moment.
It was a learning moment for who? It wasn't a learning moment for his subordinates. They got killed for no reason.
They're dead.
They didn't learn shit. They learned they got a bullet hole in their head.
They learned not to work for people that will kill them.
And people have been doing that for millennia, so it's still going to happen.
See, that's one of the things. Like I said, this isn't like a whole bash session on it, because I truly did enjoy moments. There was a lot of it where I was like, this is truly unique, and it is a fascinating thing to read about. Because, if you think about it, I don't know if they go that serious with it, but most companies are very secretive about what goes into their product and what makes them better. And it's always been a rivalry about who's better. So, for that to come into the comic world, it was really cool to see, especially when they were able to realize it the way that they did. I didn't think that they were going to be able to pull that off, but they did. I really, truly enjoyed the two brothers going at it the way that they did.
Yeah. Dave Johnson, the main artist on the series, the co-creator, I believe it's called Drink and Draw. If it's not, I'm sorry, Dave. He has a show called Drink and Draw, and they did a live stream on YouTube and all the whatever else as they were coming to the end of the campaign, or they wanted to promote the campaign at the time for issues 3 and 4. And it was him and Jimmy, and they brought in other people as it went along. And I said, hey guys, is there going to be more Pop Kill after this, or is this story it? Is this going to be the end kind of thing? And Jimmy said, oh, well, this is a full story, issue 1 through 4. It does have an ending, but that's not to say we won't come back to these characters at some point in the future. That was my biggest fear with doing the Kickstarter thing for them, because as much as doing a Kickstarter allowed them to do a comic that you would never see, maybe Image Comics would do this. Marvel and DC would not do this. Well, like I said earlier, adult comic. It's not for kids. It's not really for comic shops, although I'm sure they might have gotten it in some shops. Anyway, the point is that I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to have to shell out $10 every 3 months for the next 10 years, depending on how long the story was going to be. Not that I wouldn't have done it, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, is it a whole story, or is there going to be more? And I love the answer that he gave with, yes, it is a whole story. It is a beginning, middle, and end. And that's not to say we won't play with them in the future at some point if we get another idea. And I think that's cool, because by the time it gets to the end of the 4th issue, I'm like, okay, that went well.
Something you said ago. DC would have put this out if they still had the Vertigo imprint, and Marvel would have too if they had the Marvel Max imprint still.
I think Dark Horse would jump on it too.
Dark Horse would have jumped all over it and mailed them candy and soda and shit.
It's not. Yes, it is adult material, but it's not so much adult material that it's like, let's go way back in the day. It's not Cherry. It's not pornographic. It is.
And I mean, Image did do Sex Criminals, and that was way more adult than this is.
They did. I think they did Wanted, didn't they?
I'm not sure if they did Wanted or not.
I mean, with everything that's come out of Image in the past few years, I mean, like Walking Dead, Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some great adult stuff there that doesn't rely on TNA to get their point across.
True. I think the thing with the TNA in Pop Kill is it was another part of the whole. I don't want to say genre. What the hell word am I looking for here? It's part of the whole. It's part of the whole experience of being, you know, a hitman for a cola company, I guess. I don't know. And again, like we said, they were aiming to, you know, do a James Bondian type thing, and I had seen plenty of James Bond movies as a kid.
Too many myself.
I am not, like, I think the first one I really remember actively watching was License to Kill, and then, you know, as I got a little older in the 90s, I watched some Sean Connery. I watched a lot of Roger Moore because there's way more movies than anything else. But really, where Bond got me was when Brosnan took over in '95 when they came back, and the Craig ones I could take or leave, but. Yeah, I mean, I think it works for what it is. I see your problems with it, Kendra, and I acknowledge those, and I think that's you're right. However, it's still a fun read.
Well, going back to what I said about Vertigo, Garth Ennis put Preacher out through Vertigo in DC, and that had substantially more TNA and graphic sex in it than this 4 issues had in the entirety of it. But they did it in a way that it wasn't gratuitous. They did it in a way that it was like, okay, this is in your face and this is happening, but you understand why. And you understand, you know, how it led to these two having sex or walking in on a sex party or something like that.
Right.
It's between writers, I guess. I mean, Garth Ennis has been doing dark stuff his entire career, so...
I think that's my thing. I mean, and like I said, it's not that it does. I can't even lie. It does detract for me as a female reader. That's not to say that would be the same viewpoint that every female is going to take. But for me, it feels more like a read the room situation because we're seeing that females don't really necessarily want that kind of stuff in their comics. At least if we do. For me, and for those that I talk to, I want story. Like, I don't mind if you have tits and ass. I don't even mind if there's anything like that. I'm not a prude. I understand that they're trying to base this in real life, and in real life, this stuff happens. But for me, I just don't think that in this specific case, that where they wrote it into play fit for me. Like, if... I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Well, look at something else, too. I mean, look at the time when this came out. This came out in May of 2020. So this was last year, during the middle of God and everything, you know, pandemic, BLM, whole shebang right there. And I don't know, it just seemed kind of a little...
It just seems like a throwback to a different era. And maybe that's what it is.
To me.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know what the actual setting time-wise is for this, because I don't think it ever actually portrays that aside from the Pop Wars.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it doesn't really ever give us whether this is right here and now, or if it's taking place back then.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's today because they're all running around with smartphones.
This is also true. But
so, it's a new Pop War.
I just don't feel like, for me, that it did what it needed to with John and Miss Deluxe. I mean, yes, it gave me obviously the Bond feels, and that's coming from somebody who who doesn't watch Bond. But I knew it when I read it. I was like, oh, okay, so this is that kind of. But I don't know. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I think it's my fault because when I read things, I tend to compare it to things that I've already read, like Sin City or Reacher. And in both of those scenarios, yes, I understand that those are pillars of community. I get it. But I really like Jimmy Palmiotti's work. I really do. I mean, almost everything that I've read from him has been something that I absolutely grasp onto and like. Especially with Batwing. And that's something that we talked about a couple of nights ago when we were getting ready to go over everything for this. And I said, I loved Batwing, and I loved the build-up. I loved the writing. I loved the connection that you got with Lucas Fox. But I don't get that with any character in the series.
See, I've been reading Jimmy for, I don't know, since 95, when him and Joe Quesada started Event Comics. And they gave us Ash, which was absolutely bloody amazing. And then when he jumped over to Marvel after Quesada started the Marvel Knights thing, imprint over there. I mean, I loved the stuff that he did because he gave us an amazing run in Daredevil with a brand new character that has become a staple in the Marvel Universe now.
Yeah.
Echo, excuse me, for anybody who didn't know. But, and then his Harley stuff is fun, and it's lighthearted, and the dialogue feels really good and fluid. And then, we jump over here, and it just felt like he was trying to get an itch out, basically.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe that's what it was. Maybe he just wanted to be like, well, I can write adult comics too, see? But all of his other stuff is infinitely better.
I would like to think that...
I'm not hating on Jimmy. I'm really not. I was let down. I'm sorry, bro. Don't do it again.
Shut up.
I would like to think that, as you pointed out, and that I would like to think that because this came out at the time that it did, that even though it is set in the modern day with the cell phones and the fast cars, even though they had fast cars before cell phones kind of thing, but it was something that they wanted to do. It was an idea they had, and I think, again, if you read the letters, the Q&A things, the questions that they mention about ideas and how it came about and whatever else. Honestly, I think it's like, is it a series I'm going to go back to? Not these 4 issues. I've read the full story. I enjoy the full story. Yes, there are several issues with the story and things like that are around it. But at the same time, this added to my overall comics enjoyment, especially with what 2020 was and how we've all just kind of had to stop. The fact that I'm putting in old Pepsi and Coke ads in this podcast, like, I haven't, outside of the Diet Coke one I mentioned earlier and the Diet Pepsi one with Ray Charles, I haven't looked at a lot of those old ads in a long time. And it's just, I don't know, it's making me think of better times and
simpler times.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I can get the nostalgia. Like I said, that's part of the story that I actually really love.
Right.
And I mean, I hate to sound like we're harping on it, but like you said, with 2020, I look back at what I read in 2020 and all of the comics that I digested. And given what I do, that's a lot. So, I mean, for me, maybe that's also a reason why I was like, okay. But that's because I hold what I read on a really high plane.
Right.
Because I get to read such cool stuff, like, stuff from Boom Studios and, like I said, Billionaire Island from Mark Russell. I mean, I love what I got the chance to read, especially Ice Cream Man. And darn y'all for keeping bringing that up because I'm so excited. But I mean,
I haven't brought it up this entire podcast. You brought it up twice.
I know.
I did actually, and that was my
did you?
I haven't read it yet.
I know. That just happened. But like also stuff. I mean, and I'm not even talking about things I discovered in 2020 that were from that year. I mean, I discovered Beasts of Burden.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered all of these great worlds that were created. Revival from Image. I mean, my God. I could go on, and I'm not going to because I feel like I'm rambling now. But
tell you what,
I really, really wanted to like this. I really did. I went in with absolutely no expectations except for the fact that this was Jimmy. Mm-hmm. And I was excited for that. And I was excited because you were excited. Because you were chomping at the bit excited.
Yeah, and you're kind of infectious when you get that way.
You are. You are very passionate.
Yeah, apparently I get very loud when I get that way too, because when we recorded episode 393 or 390, no, it was 394, because 394 was the 2-hour long one. She's like, for that first hour, you were like so loud, you really need to go apologize to the neighbor. And I'm like, how am I supposed to hear myself when I have headphones on?
Exactly. So passionate about it that I was like, you know what, this is about to be the most awesome read, because when you brought up Batwing, I was like,
me,
who is that?
Who is that?
I was like, I remember him from the New 52.
I really was. I was like, who is that? And then I read it and I was like, this is genius. I want so much more. Mm-hmm. I just want to stay in this little world that they've created because these characters are amazing.
And then they're like, series canceled.
Yeah. But this one, I really did enjoy. Honestly, if I were reviewing it, it wouldn't get a 10 out of 10 for me because of certain things, but it would definitely get at least a decent 7.5 for me.
All right.
It was enjoyable.
Yeah, since we have a 0 to 5 scale here at the GCRN, and we do use half points as well, so technically it is a 10 scale, but 0 to 5, Ed, what would you give Pop Kill 1 through 4, the whole series?
I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm going to give it that 3. The fucking Post-it note scene, man. Like, internally, I'm fucking rolling when I saw it because I kept seeing all the Post-its all over the walls, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? And then they finally gave us, the payoff shot, and they pulled back, and his brother's looking at his building from across the way with a telescope and whatever, and mom liked me best, you asshole. I fucking laughed, and that was a genuine moment for me. And for that moment alone, which happens in issue 3?
I think so.
Yeah.
For that alone, I'm going to give it the 3. So
okay, just so people know, and this link is in our every episode of the Pullbag. This is our GCRN universal rating system. Like I said, 0 to 5, which includes half points. A 3.0 average. While overall taking away was positive, you do not necessarily walk away happy. It does not extraordinarily succeed in any specific areas, or if it does, it gets weighed down by something as equally unsuccessful. Though overall enjoyable, it is easily disposable. I wouldn't necessarily say this is disposable, but it's not, again, like I said, it's probably not, like, I won't go back and read these 4 issues again anytime soon. I'll go back at some point and see,
reading, and I was like, yeah, that's perfect.
Beautifully summed.
Yes.
I think, okay, what about you, Kendra? What would you give it 0 to 5?
I mean, if I gave it a 7.5, wouldn't the equal be 3.5?
Probably.
All right, well, then I'm going to do the equivalent.
Okay.
3.5.
All right, so again, because, and I won't always explain this, but I just thought of this, we can actually explain why we're rating it the way we're rating it. 3.5, according to our scale, is good. Issues are certainly prevalent, but so are the successes. Typically, there is one specific area of extraordinary achievement, like the Post-it note scene, or a multitude of quality moments that make the negative aspects relatively easy to accept. Maybe not in this case, though. That's me adding something into this. The failures are not necessarily glaring. Some of them are here. That's me adding something into this. The byproduct of design, though the difficulties one encounters hold your enjoyment back from reaching its fullest potential. And I think that does describe your feelings.
I think climax. So I think that does.
I mean, something you've said since the beginning of this podcast is that it ended very abruptly.
Yeah.
It did. You didn't explain that part
But, I have to agree, because at the end of it, I'm like, I feel like I need at least 2 more issues to tie up all the bullshit that just happened. But
I don't think they were under any. I mean, this is through their own company, Paper Films. It's
Do you think maybe the Kickstarter? Maybe put a time crunch on. I didn't watch the Kickstarter, so I don't know. But were they under any kind of time constraint?
Kickstarter. Not really. Kickstarter. They set all that themselves, and they set it for I think a month to get the funding, and they got funded within 1 day.
So maybe it was something along the lines of, well, if we reach this, then this is the date we would be expecting to have it out, and something happened during production, so they had to just get it out.
Well, we're also going to say that it was 2020 as well.
I honestly do not think so. I honestly do not think so, because as soon as the Kickstarter ended, my payment was taken, which obviously that's what happens when the Kickstarter ends and it does reach its funding. Your payment does get taken.
Right.
Yeah.
And then couple months after, I literally just got these things, 2.5 weeks ago, and the campaign ended back in December, maybe not necessarily 2.5 weeks, but it's one of those. Yeah, it ended on Christmas Day, New Year. Anyway, whatever. The point is, the point is,
question for Jimmy.
Yeah, and I mean the thing of it is I got the digital copies immediately. As soon as I filled out my survey, and as soon as I sent the survey back in to where this is how you get the rewards kind of thing. Within 20 minutes. The same day, I got the digital PDFs to be able to read this. Now, I know they're still filling rewards currently, the physical rewards. You could actually order all 4 issues in physical copies. You could order naughty covers done by Amanda Connor. You could, depending on what you were willing to spend with the campaign, So, I don't know. I'm not sure what crunches they were under.
I would actually
I'm not going to scoff at that.
Yeah.
Because I can see the chance of having Jimmy and Amanda back together.
Right.
On something like that.
Well, and not only that, but naughty covers sell regardless of who's doing it. It could be Xenoscope. It could be Lady Death. It could be... what's the other one that's done by Raven Gregory? Spider's Web? Or Raven's... Something... Widow's Web. Something like that.
Widow.
But I mean, they do that stuff all the time, and it's an incentive. White Widow. Thank you. Sorry. It's just an incentive, and that wouldn't have done shit for me for the book.
Yeah.
I would have been like, get your money.
Hell, I've been a part of a Kickstarter that had naughty covers attached to it.
What was it, Victor? Lord have mercy. Yes, we were, and so I am a freaking hypocrite. But
we didn't know anything about the until the Kickstarter went live, and he started adding people on there that was doing titties and stuff. So I'm like, okay.
Are we allowed to say titties?
We've said fucking shit in this podcast, so I think so.
Yeah, it's explicit. Don't worry. It's fine.
Alright, so we can say titties.
I mean, I'm not being disgusting about it. I'm just saying titties.
No, now we're like...
I'm not being chauvinist in it. Titties.
No, I think that's cool. I think that's cool that they had that offering. And I mean, that would be my question to Jimmy, would be, with Pop Kill for this whole inclusive all-in-one series of 1 through 4, did you get to tell the story that you wanted to, or did you feel rushed towards the end?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes along with my question that he answered was, is this going to be a complete story? And part of his answer was, yes, it is, as I said earlier, but that doesn't mean we can't go back and use these characters at some other point in the future.
Right.
So at least the ending of this, I want to say, arc, or the ending of this series is, it leaves it off in a good place, but it also leaves it off in a place where you could continue the adventures. And I think
it leaves an open door.
Yeah, and I think because of where John...
Idea. It's called Chips Magnet. Oh yeah, let's do this. It's a chip war. Potato chip companies.
Oh Lord.
You got Ruffles, you got Pringles, and you got Lay's, and they're sisters. Let's do this.
Technically,
Come on,
Pringles are not potato chips. They're crisps. They actually have no.
Do the fast food wars with all the art that's out there of the fast food people.
Dude, it could be a whole trilogy now because she done come up with fast food wars. Oh my god.
I don't know if I want to see Birdie's boobs though.
Who's?
Birdie the early bird from McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad. It's bad enough we would see some really, really horrendous grimace art.
Yeah, that and the
That's only if they brought them in. But you know what? They could make that
walking around with his
genius.
schlong hanging out.
They could make that genius.
Oil scepter.
Not that.
No, I'm giving Jimmy ideas here, man. Let's do this. Come on.
No, but they could make that genius. Have the whole Fry gang in the background as like his killer squad, his assassin.
The Fry
Right.
Guys Assassin Squad. That's funny. Oh Lord.
Just to kick your ass.
Well,
I am all.
He's throwing French fries like shurikens. Kunai or something.
Get over here!
Damn, this guy got mashed. And that's all he does. Potato puns the whole time.
Please, no. That's a bad spud right there.
This guy looks loaded. Quick, let's help him get baked.
Oh my gosh.
Well, at least you didn't pull a scallop out of your ass.
They'd have to get a hold of you for the egg puns. For the egg McMuffin.
No, that yolk ain't gonna be on me.
Period.
Shut up.
I think
like,
it's gonna be
like
enjoyable
I
last half of this.
like I said, I enjoyed it. I do. Yes. I do see the issues with it. At the same time,
It led to this great conversation.
it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, now that we've said all of this, they can't use any of these ideas because they might have to pay us for them.
Hey, Jimmy, I'm willing to settle on the side for my ideas. Let's hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you need to hit me up.
Either that or they're going to be like, how are you guys in our heads?
Probably.
We'll be sitting here one day. Hey, are you this Ed and Kendra? Hi, I'm Jimmy Palmiotti. What the fuck? Come in. We have shit for you to sign.
Yes, exactly. We have all the action figures you can sign.
Yes. All of them.
I need Todd McFarlane for that.
All right, for me, I am also going to give it a 3.5, which is, as I said, good. I do see where you're coming from, Kendra. At the same time, for me, it instantly, even though it takes place in the modern day, it instantly transported me back to the 90s with the Cola Wars.
Right.
But, 3.5, it's not a bad rating. It's not like we gave it a 2.5, which is below average.
I can give it a 0.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys what 0 is off air. Where can the people find you online, Ed?
YouTube, The Sith Rules, Ed, Twitch, The Sith Rules, Instagram, Twitter, BadEd700 on Twitter, and on Facebook, of course. Hanging out, being like, what's up? Here's some good memes to satisfy y'all.
Absolutely. What about you, Kendra?
I don't know. After this one, I kind of figure I'd rather them not find me. My life.
Backlash.
Not like they're going to send John Pyle after you to oogle you or anything.
He can keep his cross-dressing closet. Oh, God. Honestly, if you guys want to find me, the easiest way is Twitter. I'm at Devour All Words. All of my reviews from Dark Knight News, DC Comics News, Gothic Bite Magazine, and Fantastic Universes are available there. I post them when I remember to. As soon they publish. I've only forgotten like 2 or 3 times, and I always make sure I put it back up on there. But that's probably the best way. Aside from that, honestly, Googling me with the word review after it will bring up about 300 different links. So there's that.
Cool. I am at TFG and Mike on Twitter. You can also follow at the Pullbag. Coming up next, we've got JT from Saskatoon and myself talking about Batman Beyond Volume 6, Divide, Conquer, and Kill from Rebirth. And then after that, we're going to Hate Fairyland. Then we have, like I said, as of this episode, we have 5 episodes until 400. So we've got that planned out and everything else. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time here inside the Pullbag.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.